Hi, I'm Kristen Oaks-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
There are 11 million people living in Cuba. The vast majority of the food they eat is imported. But because of the trade embargo imposed by Congress in early 1960s, very little of that comes from the United States.
Congressmen from Louisiana and Arkansas traveled to Cuba with the hope of making connections and gaining support to end the trade embargo. The socialist nation, just 90 miles off the Florida coast, is already taking steps to encourage free enterprise. TWILA was the only media outlet invited on the trip to show you why trade with Cuba would be good for Southern agriculture.
150.
This is the birth of the free market in a socialist country. This is the El Trigal Cooperative Market, founded in December of 2013 by a group of 10 farmers. This is the place where growers can sell their crop once they've given the Cuban government its share. Upwards of 120 sellers are here every day, with 500,000 Cuban pesos changing hands. It's quite a sight for Louisiana and Arkansas farmers like Ted Glob and Joe Mercer on their first trip to Cuba.
You have buyers that have a specific demand, you have producers that produce that product or don't. How do you get the two to link together? Because this is the market, but this is the early days of the Chicago Board of Trade.
It's not just at the market where the 20 travelers on this trade mission feel like they've stepped back in time. This is the Rene Oreine Garcia Farm Co-op. Spanning 1,200 acres, it provides Cubans with milk, beef, pork, and the grains needed to feed those animals. Official Ambassador Juan Jose Leon tells the group that 127 farmers are part of this co-op, and all of them share this 1949 tractor. Leon says equipment and inputs have been hard to come by since the fall of the Soviet Union. When that happened, Cuba lost 80% of its trade over an 18-month period. Merrill Kennedy is president of Kennedy Rice in Mer Rouge, Louisiana, and sees where trade with Cuba could help this farm.
You know, the agricultural side is truly poorly developed, but they are doing extremely well for what they have. It's very apparent since the collapse of the Soviet Union that they have not had the resources that they needed. I mean, they made clear to us this morning that they haven't had really any new equipment in many decades, no fertilizer, no inputs whatsoever, or very limited inputs. And so really for what they've been able to produce with what inputs and they have, it's fairly remarkable, but there's still much to be done on the agricultural side and much development that can happen.
This meeting is where that development could begin. Congressman Rick Crawford of Arkansas, Ralph Abraham of Louisiana, and Louisiana State Senator Francis Thompson of Delhi speak at length with the North America Director for the Cuban Minister of Foreign Trade, Maria de la Luz Pamo. It's in that meeting where the two sides discuss the trade embargo, or blockade as the Cubans call it, and seem to find a breakthrough.
This embargo has outlived its usefulness, if it ever was useful, and we don't see the evidence that it has had any effect on punishing the Castros. In fact, it's really punished American producers, because we have then become the scapegoat for the Castro regime to say, look, the Americans won't play ball.
I think we got the opportunity of a lifetime. We're at the crossroads with a company, corporation, venture, and this island of Cuba that we can trade, have a partnership with them that can make a big financial difference in the southern part of the United States.
In Louisiana, we have the best cropland in the Delta that the earth can produce. We have some of the best farmers, certainly along with our colleagues in Arkansas and the other southern states. And we have the greatest quantity, but more important, we have the best quality in the world. They know that here in Cuba. They want that. We want to give it to them. So why not?
Back at the market, with the knowledge that Cubans import a vast majority of their rice, Mercer looks at what could be his competition.
We got rice right here. Just some locally grown rice. As you can see, pretty high content of brokens and some red rice, a lot of chalk. Anything we can compete against easily.
The president of the market seems to welcome the day when there is American rice sold here.
I would like to say to all of the people in the States that the people of Cuba, as we've always said, we have always been friends. We have never been enemies, and we are here waiting for you to participate in this market.
It's in the interest of Congressman Crawford to keep the Cubans as friends, not just for trade, but for protection.
As we've seen in the past, when we leave and we don't engage, many times a power vacuum develops and some bad actor comes in and fills that void. We're in a position to fill that void in a good way and build goodwill right here in our backyard, and I think that's the take-home message.
Congressman Crawford's bill, the Cuba Agricultural Exports Act, currently has 25 co-sponsors, including Congressman Abraham. In speaking with Crawford staffers on this trip, they tell me they need about 100 co-sponsors to have it go before the House for a vote, and they want most of those co-sponsors to be Republican. That's where you can come in. Crawford is asking you to call your representatives in Congress and ask them to support his bill. Now, while I was in Cuba, I witnessed a one-on-one connection that seemed to sum up the purpose of this trip. Here you see one of the workers at the Hotel Nacional taking down the Cuban flag for the evening. As he was doing so, Arkansas farmer Ted Glob saw that it was about to hit the ground and helped. He held the Cuban flag as the worker lowered the flag and removed it from the pole. Now here's the interesting part. Glob flew supplies to Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War. He swore to protect the American flag, and here you see him folding the Cuban flag with a Cuban citizen and shaking hands when they're done.
You always respect the other man's flag. You always respect the other man when you're in their country. We may have disagreements, but human respect, and we've already learned on this mission, they're very proud people. You never let a flag hit the ground.
It was a moving moment, knowing Glob's history and the significance behind his actions. Perhaps it's a sign of things to come. And speaking of things to come, next week I'll share more from the trip to Cuba, including a look at some of how the culture and agriculture is moving to the population centers, just like here in the state.